And I asked him, how should we even describe this? And talking to our team after, I was drafting up a tweet, and I was like, there are no words to put out a statement to describe this horrific scene.
You know, when you're a certain age, you use words that you know from when you were a kid or you remember saying, and that's what I did today, and I shouldn't have. I should have thought about it a little longer before I said it, but I didn't. And I should have said cheated, and I used another word, and I'm really, really sorry.
Whoopi Goldberg has never shied away from speaking her mind, especially when it comes to politics and social issues. But this time, she met her match, Karoline Leavitt, a rising conservative powerhouse who isn't afraid to push back against mainstream narratives. Unlike many guests who tread carefully on The View, Leavitt came ready for battle. When Whoopi passionately defended wokeness, framing it as a movement for fairness, equality, and expanded opportunities, Leavitt didn't hesitate to challenge her. Armed with sharp counterpoints and hard-hitting facts, she delivered a reality check that caught Whoopi off guard, leaving the usually unshakable host struggling for a comeback.
We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House.
The conversation took a fiery turn when Whoopi Goldberg passionately defended the concept of wokeness. She framed it as a force for progress, one that promotes fairness and ensures that marginalized voices finally get the recognition they deserve. Looking directly at Karoline Leavitt, Whoopi didn't hold back. "Let me tell you something," she said firmly. "Without wokeness, you might not even have that job. Women weren't always welcome at the table in this country. It took generations of struggle, persistence, and sacrifice to break those barriers so that you wouldn't have to fight the same battles we did." Her words hung in the air, sparking a debate that was about to get even more intense.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Whoopi's statement carried weight, and for a brief moment, it seemed like Karoline Leavitt might do what many conservative guests had done before: listen, nod, and move on. But that's not Karoline Leavitt. She wasn't about to let Whoopi control the narrative without standing her ground.
Nothing is off limits. They will go after you and your family, and everything is on the line when you decide to be a public servant and run. But I don't have no regrets.
Without missing a beat, Karoline Leavitt leaned in, meeting Whoopi's argument head on. She wasn't rattled by the crowd's reaction, nor did she waver in her stance. Instead, she made one thing crystal clear: wokeness isn't about fairness, it's about control. It's about enforcing a single narrative and silencing anyone who dares to challenge it. And if wokeness truly empowered women, Leavitt asked, why do platforms like The View consistently tear down conservative women? She didn't hold back, calling out the contradiction. "So let me get this straight. You claim wokeness gave me a voice, but now that I'm using it in a way you don't approve of, I should sit down and be quiet. That's equality?" The audience hesitated, caught off guard. They hadn't expected Leavitt to push back with such intensity, and for the first time in the discussion, Whoopi had no immediate comeback. But Leavitt wasn't finished. She went even further, highlighting how conservative women are routinely dismissed, mocked, and shut down, not for being wrong, but simply for thinking differently. She pointed to Whoopi's own track record, reminding everyone that time and again, conservative guests on The View are talked over, misrepresented, and ridiculed the moment they leave the stage. The tension in the room was undeniable. The debate wasn't just about wokeness anymore. It was about who gets to have a voice, and who decides which voices matter.
And they're also exhausted, by the way, because we are doing so much.
And not even in a wussy, sad little way. Like, they must be exhausted because it's just nonstop.
It's insane.
Karoline Leavitt wasn't finished. She took Whoopi Goldberg's argument about bias and turned it on its head, using real-world examples to expose its contradictions. She pointed out how teachers, workers, and even students have faced job losses or disciplinary action simply for holding views that don't align with left-leaning ideologies. Leavitt didn't hold back. She highlighted professors professors who were fired for questioning DEI policies, and employees who were forced into mandatory sensitivity training just for expressing different perspectives. Then she shifted the focus to schools and workplaces, calling out how one-sided narratives were being pushed with little to no room for debate. Parents aren't against education, she argued. They just want their kids to learn how to think, not what to think. But she didn't stop there. Leavitt took aim at social media platforms, exposing how conservative voices are frequently banned, demonetized, or shadow banned for challenging mainstream narratives. She painted a picture of a system that claimed to champion fairness while silencing dissenting opinions. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the room. Turning to Whoopi directly, she delivered a pointed challenge. If wokeness is about fairness, why do you only defend the women who agree with you? The tension was palpable. Whoopi raised her hand, shook her head, and tried to cut in, but Leavitt wouldn't be silenced. Unlike most conservative guests who had been steamrolled in similar debates, she refused to back down. In that instant, it was clear. Whoopi had lost control of the conversation.
Talk about the wokeness. The wokeness was put in place for a reason, because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our ass to make sure that this was a person's world.
Sensing the conversation slipping away, Whoopi Goldberg dug in, making an impassioned defense. She argued that wokeness isn't just a buzzword, it's about righting historical wrongs. Without it, she insisted, society wouldn't have moved forward, and people like Karoline wouldn't have the opportunities they enjoy today. Then, she made it personal. I don't think you realize this, but wokeness helped open doors for you. Women before you had to fight tooth and nail to be in spaces like this. You're benefiting from the very thing you're criticizing. It was a classic strategy. Turn the argument back on the guest, making them confront the privileges they claim to reject. But if Whoopi was expecting hesitation, she didn't get it. Karoline didn't flinch. Without missing a beat, she fired back. I got here because I worked hard, not because of wokeness. The tension in the room was undeniable. A moment of silence, then the conversation exploded. Who was right? Was Whoopi making a fair point, or was Karoline simply refusing to give credit where it was due? One thing was certain, the debate was far from over.
Please explain this to me, because I don't understand, but you do, so what's going on?
The moment the episode aired, the internet exploded. Karoline Leavitt didn't just hold her ground against Whoopi Goldberg, she did what few conservative guests on The View have ever managed to do: push back with confidence. Supporters were quick to praise her. Karoline is successful on her own, well-spoken, and speaks the truth. Whoopi, on the other hand, speaks from a place of anger and resentment. One person commented. Another added, Leavitt would be the perfect press secretary, sharp, articulate, and never caught off guard. But Whoopi wasn't without her defenders. Fans of The View insisted she was simply explaining how wokeness has played a role in uplifting marginalized communities. Whoopi was making a historical point. Karoline made it personal. One supporter argued, then the media stepped in, and the controversy took on a life of its own. Conservative outlets hailed Karoline as a rising political star, commending her for challenging the idea that wokeness is about fairness rather than control. Many pointed out The View's track record of grilling conservative women while celebrating liberal voices. Left-leaning media, however, had a very different take. Some accused Karoline of grandstanding, calling her performance more of a publicity stunt than a real debate. Others labeled her disruptive, arguing that she was more focused on creating a viral moment than engaging in meaningful conversation. Meanwhile, social media turned into a battleground. Reaction videos, heated debates, and hot takes flooded every platform. Every moment, Whoopi's exasperated expressions, Karoline's sharp delivery, and the audience's divided reactions was analyzed and debated. But this was bigger than just two women clashing on live TV. It reignited a larger discussion about wokeness, cancel culture, and media bias. One thing, however, was undeniable. Karoline Leavitt didn't back down, and Whoopi Goldberg, she never saw it coming.
No, she was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So how has your approach differed, would you say?
I think it's vastly different. And if you ask people, even in the legacy media, even the Trump haters, they will tell you the approach has been much different, not just from me, but
They
the
admit that to
entire
you.
White House. Oh, absolutely. They come in my office every day and they'll admit that off the record.
So, what just went down? Let's break it all down. Whoopi Goldberg took a stand, defending wokeness as a push for progress and fairness. But Karoline Leavitt wasn't having it. She came ready, pointing out the contradictions and double standards. And when Whoopi pushed back, Leavitt didn't just hold her own. She flipped the script, seizing control of the viral moment that has everyone talking. Now, the internet is on fire, with debates raging on both sides. Some say Leavitt delivered a much-needed reality check, while others argue that Whoopi made a compelling case. But what do you think? Did Karoline Leavitt outmaneuver Whoopi? Or was Whoopi standing her ground with a strong argument? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more updates on the biggest moments shaking up the conversation.